Ever since humans have been around, we've told stories about magical weapons that are more than just tools of war or hunting. They are imbued with mystical powers and often become extensions of their owners, granting them superhuman abilities and sometimes even sentience. Today, let's talk about some of our favorite mythical weapons from around the world. You know the drill. Number 10. Durandal, the invincible sword of Roland. One of the most legendary medieval warriors was Roland, a Frankish general who fought alongside Charlemagne in the 8th and 9th centuries. Roland fell in battle, but his sword, Durandal, survived the fray and became the stuff of legend, appearing in medieval poems and eventually in the French epic poem, The Song of Roland. Said to be the greatest of all swords, Durandal was indestructible. When it was forged by 4 blacksmith dwarfs deep in a mountain, it was so strong that no man could break it. It would also not rust or dull, and it could cut through any armor. But most importantly, Durandal was loyal. It only served brave and true men. And so, when Roland wielded it, he gained supernatural strength and skill in battle. Even after Roland's death, the sword remained an emblem of valor and was said to be buried with him. But its legend lived on, inspiring generations of French knights and eventually becoming a symbol of France itself. Magus, the sentient whip of the Aztec god of wind. In Aztec mythology, there were many magical weapons, including those used by the gods. One of the most powerful and fascinating was Magus, the whip of the god of wind, Quetzalcoatl. This whip wasn't just a tool of war or hunting, but a living being with a mind of its own. According to the Codex Laudamoracanus, Magus was created by the gods to punish the wicked and protect the innocent. It was made from the backbone of a fish and had feathers attached to it and had the power to control the wind and cause immense damage. It was said to be so powerful that it could destroy entire cities. However, its power was not without limits. The whip was under the control of Quetzalcoatl and could only be used by him. When Quetzalcoatl was captured by the god of the underworld, Magus was taken from him and thrown into the sea, where it was swallowed by a fish. Later, when Quetzalcoatl returned to Earth, he searched for his lost weapon, but it was never found. The myth of Magus reminds us of the power and importance of weapons in human history. 8. Kusanagi, one of the 3 great treasures of Japan. One of the most important symbols of Japanese culture is the chrysanthemum sword, which represents the nation's history, values, and traditions. But before the chrysanthemum sword was adopted as a national symbol, there was another sacred blade that held a special place in Japanese mythology, the grass cutter. The grass cutter was one of the 3 great treasures of Japan, along with the mirror of heaven and the jeweled sword. It was said to have been gifted to the 12th king of Japan by the gods and was passed down through the imperial line for generations. The sword was believed to have magical powers and was said to glow with a golden light whenever danger was near. It was also said to be able to grant its wielder supernatural strength and wisdom. Over the centuries, the grass cutter became a symbol of the emperor's divine authority and was used to consecrate new emperors. Today, the sword is no longer in existence, but its legacy lives on in the chrysanthemum sword and other Japanese art forms. Number 7. Joyous, the lucky sword of Charlemagne. Another legendary weapon associated with Charlemagne was his sword named Joyous, which means joyous in French. According to the manuscript, The Deeds of Louis the Pious, Joyous was a magnificent golden sword presented to Charlemagne by the Bishop of Orleans and was said to be a miraculous weapon capable of healing the sick. It was also said to have been used by Charlemagne in battle against the Saxons and to have been present at the emperor's side during the siege of Paris in 861. Like Durandal, Joyous was said to have healing properties, making it an important part of Charlemagne's military arsenal. While little is known about the sword today, it remains an important symbol of medieval warfare and the power of belief in magic weapons. Number 6. The Spear of Longinus. If you want to be a Roman soldier, you must have the right equipment. One of the most important pieces of gear was the spear, which was used for everything from hunting to fighting in battle. But no spear was more important than the spear of Longinus, the soldier who pierced Jesus' side with his spear after the crucifixion. The spearhead was kept in a silver vase in a church in Rome and was said to have miraculous powers. During World War II, it disappeared, but it was later rediscovered in a German museum and returned to Italy. Today, it is kept in the Vatican museums and is considered one of the most important relics in Christianity. The story of the spear of Longinus reminds us of the importance of faith and the power of belief in magical weapons. No. 5. Gungnir, the unerring spear of Odin. One of the most famous weapons in Norse mythology is Gungnir, the unerring spear of Odin, the god of wisdom and death. Gungnir was a magical spear that never missed its target and was said to have been used by Odin in battle against the giants. It was one of the most powerful weapons in the Norse pantheon and was said to have been used to kill many of the god's enemies. Gungnir was also a symbol of Odin's power and wisdom, and it was said to have been used to bring order to the cosmos. In Norse mythology, Gungnir represents the power of knowledge and the importance of strategy in battle. No. Forsale, the sword of light of the Tuatha De Danann. The Tuatha De Danann were a group of supernatural beings who came to Ireland from the east. They brought with them many magical weapons, including Sali, the sword of light. This sword was said to be one of the most powerful weapons in Irish mythology and was used by the Tuatha De Danann in their battles against the Firbolg and the Fomorians. The sword was said to have been used to slay many of the Tuatha De Danann's enemies and was also used to bring light into darkness. In Irish mythology, the sword of light represents the power of the supernatural and the importance of light in the battle between good and evil. No. 3. The Black Sword, one of the most powerful weapons in African folklore. The Black Sword is a legendary weapon said to have been wielded by the great warrior king Shaka Zulu. The sword was said to have been forged by a witch doctor and was imbued with powerful magic that made it almost impossible to defeat. The Black Sword was said to have been used by Shaka Zulu in many battles and was instrumental in the Zulu kingdom's rise to power. In African folklore, the Black Sword represents the power of magic and the importance of the warrior tradition in African cultures. No. 2. Gram, the sword of the berserker. Gram is a legendary sword in Norse mythology. It was said to have belonged to a hero named Sigmund, who was a member of the legendary band of warriors called the Berserkers. According to Norse legend, Gram was a magical sword that gave its wielder great strength and power in battle. It was said to be unbreakable and to have a glowing blue light that could be seen from miles away. Gram was also said to have been able to speak, and it is said that the sword urged Sigmund to use it wisely and bravely. The sword was eventually lost, but it was said to have been recovered by a hero named Ragnar Lothbrok. And no. 1. Excalibur, the legendary sword of King Arthur. Excalibur is perhaps the most famous magical sword in Western culture, said to have been the sword of King Arthur, the legendary British king who pulled the sword from a stone to prove himself worthy to be king. According to legend, Excalibur was a magical sword that gave its wielder great power and was said to have been forged by the gods. The sword was also said to have a scabbard that contained a magical potion that could heal any wound. Excalibur was lost after King Arthur's death, but it was said to have been recovered by Sir Galahad, one of King Arthur's knights of the Round Table. Which one of these do you think is the coolest? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I know I had my favorites, but if you don't see it here, please share it in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you'll be the first to know when we release new videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.